Okay, so in the last video we dealt with this first table here, which was the sensitivity of the decision variable cells, the stuff that we're allowed to change. Now we're going to take a look at the constraints, and so this is the sensitivity to the constraints. And so as we look at it, a couple of things to note right on the bot is the final value, which is where we ended up, and the constraint right-hand side, which basically is what it goes up to. So in this case, 10,000 hours and 3,000 hours. So the first thing that we've got is what's called the shadow price. So what is the shadow price? Shadow price indicates the change in the optimal value of the objective function when the right-hand side of the constraint changes by 1 unit. Right-hand side is, this is the what we're set at. So shadow price. So if I increase the constraint, the right-hand side, by 1 unit, the shadow price, this is how it affects the objective function. So if I increase the right-hand side by 1, the objective function would increase by 16. So in this case, since it is profit, the objective function, that means that our profit would increase by $16. Works the other way too. So if we decrease the right-hand side of the constraint, the shadow price would be a corresponding negative 16. So if we dropped the constraint, the right-hand side down to 9,999, it would drop the overall objective function by 16, or $16. Now, so the allowable increase and allowable decrease are indicating how much the right-hand side function can change before that shadow price would change. So this is not what we can move things around by to change the objective. This is all just about the shadow price. So if I'm looking at the labor hours, so the assembling labor hours, the right-hand side has a shadow price of 16 as long as the right-hand side would be between 7,200 hours. So that would be my right-hand side decrease 2,800, which would be 7,200 hours, to 10,200 hours, because that's where I would be able to increase it by. So we're looking at 7,200 to 10,200 hours. So as long as the right-hand side, the actual constraint that we have, stays in this band of 7,200 to 10,200, the shadow price is going to stay at $16, which means that for every hour that we add or subtract from it, we are going to add or subtract 16 from our objective function. So I go and I look at my testing hours, and you'll notice, there we go. There's that 1 times 10 to the 30 again. So infinity. So we are going to have a shadow price of 0 if we add or subtract our hours to the testing. So we can increase them by infinity, and the shadow price is still going to be 0. Because we didn't use everything that we had anyway. So it doesn't matter how many available hours that you make, you're still going to add nothing to it because you're not using it. And so if I look at things and it goes, okay, well, I can decrease by 40. So what is that telling me? That shadow price of 0 is going to hold between, we can decrease this by 40, because that's our 30, so that's our 3,000, so our 3,000 minus 40 would be 2,960, and then that would go to infinity. So as long as we're between 2,960 and infinity, that testing labor hour shadow price will be 0. So if we add or subtract, it's not going to change anything. Now notice that allowable decrease is the amount of slack that we have. So obviously, if we remove 40 hours from the right-hand side constraint, the shadow price isn't going to change because we have 40 hours that we're not using. And that's why I said, and adding hours to it, since we're not going to use them anyway, it's not going to change the objective function at all. You send this to 41, though, and things do change, because now you will have used up all the extra time that we've got, and you'll be digging into that regular time that we have. And so once again, this is just ways that we can look at the sensitivity of different things within our solver. And once again, just on the answer report, just the binding and the non-binding thing is a very, very huge thing. And obviously you could look at it and go, hey, look, that I've used all there and there, so I know those are binding. But they're important things to be able to identify. All right then, so that is everything that we have for this problem. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.